What if I told you that needing reassurance isn't actually the problem? Most people think it is. They think the issue is that they ask too many questions, need too much validation, need too many reminders, need too much certainty. But what if reassurance isn't the problem? What if it's a symptom? Because I've noticed something interesting. People rarely ask for reassurance when they feel safe. They ask for reassurance when something feels threatened. And for a lot of people, what feels threatened isn't the relationship, it is their sense of worth. Think about it. When someone doesn't reply for a few hours, what happens? Do you simply think they must be busy? Or does your mind immediately start creating stories? Maybe they're losing interest. Maybe they're annoyed. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they're pulling away. Maybe they don't care as much as I thought they did. And before they're even done anything, you're already searching for reassurance. Not because you need attention, because you're trying to escape uncertainty. And that's where things get interesting because uncertainty is one of the most uncomfortable experiences for the human brain, right? The brain wants answers, it wants certainties, it wants to know where it stands, especially when something important is involved, right? But for some people, uncertainty doesn't feel uncomfortable, it feels dangerous. A delayed reply doesn't feel like uncertainty, it feels like rejection. Someone needing space doesn't feel like space, feels like abandonment. Someone being distracted doesn't feel like distractions, it feels personal. And that's because the brain isn't responding to what's happening now, it is responding to what it learned before. Have you ever noticed that some people can go days without reassurance and be completely fine, while others need constant confirmation that everything is okay? That doesn't happen because one person is stronger. It happens because they learn different lessons about relationships. Some people learned people stay, others learned people leave. Some people learned I'm lovable even when things are uncertain. Others learned if I don't know where I stand, something bad is about to happen. And those beliefs quietly follow us into adulthood. This is why reassurance feels so powerful. For a moment, it calms the fear. Someone says, I'm not upset. Relief. Someone says, I still care about you. Relief. Someone says, I'm not going anywhere. Guess what? Relief. But have you noticed how temporary that relief is? Because if reassurance were the solution, you'd only need it once. Instead, many people need it again and again and again. Why? Because reassurance can soothe fear, but it cannot heal the belief creating the fear. That's why it keeps coming back. I want you to imagine something. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that makes you look distorted. Every day, someone tells you, no, you look fine. You may feel better for a moment, but the next time you look in the mirror, the doubt returns. Because the problem isn't the reassurance, the problem is the lens. Many people are looking at relationships through a lens that says, I'm easy to leave. I'm not good enough. I have to earn love. I'm one mistake away from being abandoned. Of course, they're going to seek reassurance. How could they not? The painful part is that many people eventually start judging themselves for it. They think, why am I so needy? Why can't I just relax? Why do I always need reassurance? But what if the better question is, what am I actually afraid will happen if I don't get it? That question changes everything. Because most people aren't afraid of uncertainty, they're afraid of what uncertainty awakens. The old fear, the old belief, the old story, the one that says, you are not important enough. You are not lovable enough. You are not worthy staying for. And here's the irony. The more reassurance becomes the solution, the more powerless you become. Because now your sense of safety depends on someone else. Their text, their tone, their attention, their mood, their availability, their responses. And that is exhausting, not just for them, but also for you, because you're constantly waiting for someone else to regulate something happening inside of you. So, what helps? First, start noticing when you're asking for reassurance versus seeking connection. These are not the same thing. Connection sounds like, I miss you. Reassurance sounds like, are you mad at me? Connection brings people closer. Reassurance often comes from fear. Second, get curious about the belief underneath the reassurance. What am I afraid this means? What story am I telling myself right now? What am I assuming? Because often the story is much more painful than the situation itself. And finally, remember that healthy relationships are built on trust, not certainty. Certainty is impossible. No relationship can provide enough guarantee to permanently remove fear. At some point, healing requires learning to tolerate uncertainty without immediately turning it into evidence of rejection. And that is hard, but it's also freedom. Eventually, you stop needing constant proof that you're loved and start trusting that one difficult moment does not erase an entire relationship. You stop looking for signs that they're leaving. You stop preparing for abandonment. You stop searching for reassurance every time fear appears. And for the first time, you begin experiencing relationships as they are, not through the lens of what you're afraid they might become. Thank you for listening. I hope that was helpful. And if you find this to be relatable, I would encourage you to subscribe because this is exactly what we talk about here in this channel.